those who were able to avoid and stay away from as best as they can, were able to sidestep kaba'ir al-ithm, the biggest of sins, the major sins, murder, zina, they were able to stay away from riba, haram, lying, cheating, those kinds of things, the big stuff. Wal-fawahish, and all forms of shamelessness. Illa al-lamam, except I'll have to translate this as, except the pre-major sins. There's the major sin, then there's the little stuff that leads you to the major sin. You were sitting there talking, and people are just talking about, hey, this is a good business idea, that's a good business idea. I have a friend who just got into one mortgage, and he's using this mortgage, he rented it out, and he's using this mortgage to pay off another mortgage, and there's a scheme he's doing or whatever, and you're like, okay, so what bank? Oh, he's going with Bank of America. No, this one's going with Citibank. This one's going with Chase Bank. They have some pretty good rates right now. So you're talking about riba and how financially lucrative it might be for you. Okay, that's lamam. You're talking about, but you haven't done anything yet. Now the thought simmers in your mind and you say, maybe I should apply for a loan. I'm not going to take the loan, just going to apply. Okay, applying may not be a major sin, but you got qualified. Eesh. Now you go and you sign the paper. And when you go sign the paper, now it becomes a major sin. But before that, there are small things. Maybe you took 2-3 steps in the wrong direction, and then you said, no, I don't think I should do this. And you took a step back, and you went back. Allah says that won't be held against you. That's one benefit of the word lamam here. Lamam also means minor sins. And this is a very important comparison. It's a major psychological abnormality. It's a disease that a lot of people have. Hopefully you and I don't have it. And that is that there are major things Allah wants us to stay away from. And there's a person, because of their temptation or their greed or their family tradition, whatever the reason, they are in it. They're in the major evil. Whether it's riba, whether it's the liquor store or the 7-Eleven you're running with your dad, or it's the mortgage thing, the loan thing, loan sharking, whatever it is, you're in it and you're in the thick of it. You're in the thick of it. Or you own a halal restaurant that serves liquor too, those guys. You're in one of those things. And you can't find your way. You refuse to change your behavior. You refuse to get out of it. But then what do? Your conscience eats away at you. So what do? You start, and you want to be religious. You still want to maintain spirituality. So what do? Your religion becomes, hey, some people, they don't raise their ankles high enough when they make salat. Their salat is invalid. The beard should be this long. It shouldn't be this short. Those people, when they pray, they don't even make dua properly after salat. You pick on these things in Islam that are there. Sure, they're there. But you take these things and you make them the religion, and it helps you avoid thought about the really big evil that you're up to. So you develop this microscopic view of the religion in which, yeah, of course I'm religious, of course. So the guy's going to go on a crusade about how ice cream is haram because it has certain chemical ingredients that are this, that, and the other, and he will make a website about it and argue with masjid people about it, this and that. But at his home, he's not even going to, the riba is okay, the haram job is okay, the shamelessness is okay, but haram ice cream. That's going to become his crusade. But this is a disease. First, you deal with the big things, and then when the big things are in order, then you address the smaller things too. Fine. I'm not saying those things are unimportant, but if they're just a way of you to escape your reality, and you don't want to deal with the fact that you're neck deep in sin, then that's something else. Inna rabbaka wasi'ul maghfirah. No doubt your master is expansive in forgiveness. Forgiveness is vast. Huwa a'lam wa huwa a'lamu bikum. He knows very well about you, where you stand. إِذْ أَنْشَأَكُم مِّنَ الْأَرْضِ. When He brought you all out from the earth. When He raised you from the earth, meaning He created you from dirt. وَإِذْ أَنْتُمْ أَجِنَّةٌ. And when you people were hidden away, فِي بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ. In the bellies of your mothers. فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Then don't you become self-righteous. Don't declare yourselves pure. Don't, first of all, reduce the religion to 1 or 2 issues, and then because you have perfected yourself in those issues, you're the crusader in those issues, somehow you're the righteous believer now. فَلَا تُزَكُّوا أَنفُسَكُمْ هُوَ أَعْلَمُ بِمَنِ اتَّقَى. He knows better about the one who has taqwa. أَفَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي تَوَلَّى. Did you see the person who turned away? The who doesn't want to hear this message? وَأَعْطَى قَلِيلًا. And he did some good things too. He gave a little charity too. وَأَكْدَى. And then he got really greedy. He gives a gift and then he takes it away out of cheapness. So أَعْطَى قَلِيلًا, then he realizes even that little I want to take back. The reality of it is he gave only for show and then he took it back. So the greedy person. أَعِنْدَهُ عِلْمُ الْغَيْبِ. This kind of character is going to have knowledge of the unseen. فَهُوَ يَرَى. That he's going to be able to see. أَمْ لَمْ يُنَبَّأْ بِمَا فِي صُحُفِ مُوسَى. Is it not the case that he was thoroughly informed of whatever is also found in the scriptures of Musa? وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ الَّذِي وَفَّى. And the same thing that's been found in the scriptures of Ibrahim, the one who fulfilled his promise, الَّذِي وَفَّى, the one who did right by his promise, gave in full. Allah. And what was the things given to Musa and Ibrahim alayhi salam? This is the second time. First place we read this in fi suhufi Ibrahim wa Musa. Again, Musa and Ibrahim here. What is it? Allah taziru waziratun wizra ukhra. That nobody will be carrying the burden of anybody else. You can become self-righteous and deluded about yourself all you want. You will have to carry your burdens. You will have to take responsibility for the kind of life you led. وَأَنْ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. And that the human being will not have anything for himself. There's nothing to benefit the human being except the very things he rushed, made efforts for. He strove for. He made a lot of strides, a lot of efforts. That's all he's going to get. وَأَنَّ سَعْيَهُ سَوْفَ يُرَى. And that his effort is soon going to be seen. It's going to be witnessed. It's going to be brought out and you're going to get to see. This is what your life amounted to. ثُمَّ يُجْزَاهُ الْجَزَاءَ الْأَوْفَى. Then he will be compensated the most complete compensation possible. Al-Awfa. وَإِنَّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّكَ الْمُنْتَهَى. And to you is the final destination to your master anyway. Inna ila rabbika al-muntaha. To your master is the final destination, the place where it all comes to an end. وَأَنَّهُ. And so this is, Sidratul Muntaha was in the beginning of the surah, and now to you, the Muntaha of Allah, the final destination is to Allah. That seems so far away. That makes it seem like Allah is so far because He's so high above. But then Allah says, وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَضْحَكَ وَأَبْكَى. And He's the one, in fact, He's the one that makes you laugh. He's the one that makes laughing happen. وَأَبْكَى. And He's the one that makes cry. Meaning He makes you laugh and He makes you cry. You know, I was just reading this ayah this morning when I was just reviewing for dars, and I could hear my daughter crying. And then her mom's trying to calm her down. She's not calming down. So I did my monkey bit and I came out and I calmed her down. And she looked at me, she slapped my face, and she was okay. So then I said to my wife, see? I made her stop crying. Then I said, no, wait, no. Allah makes cry and Allah makes laugh. إِنَّهُ هُوَ أَضْحَكَ وَأَبْكَى. Allah is the one who makes you laugh. Allah is the one that makes you cry. Subhanallah. How close Allah is. How close Allah is. The smile on a baby happened from Allah. The cry down her tear happens from Allah. That's how close Allah is to you. And you know, the people who make us laugh and cry are the people we love the most. This ayah is about love. It's about love. This is how close Allah is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. That our joys and our sadnesses are coming from Him. وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَمَاتَ. And by the way, some say that this is actually two sides of the same coin. This is both talking about joy. That Allah, people see Jannah and they laugh. And they laugh so hard that it makes them cry. This is tears of joy. And you know, the extreme of joy is that you just cry. Subhanallah. وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَضْحَكَ وَأَبْكَى. وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَمَاتَ وَأَحْيَا. And He's the one who gives death. And He's the one that gives life. He's the one who has given death. And He's the one who has given life. أحيا. وَأَنَّهُ خَلَقَ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنثَى. And He's the one that created both pairs, male and female. Meaning both male and female are creations of Allah. You can give Allah daughters and take sons for yourself. These are both creations of Allah. مِن نُطْفَةٍ إِذَا تُمْنَى. From a fluid that is dropped. That a fluid that is released, the sperm, same fluid, and a boy or a girl comes out. And then he says something very powerful. This is actually fortifying one of the core teachings that is embedded inside the Fatiha. It should be understood as such. It's something implanted into the Fatiha. It has to be derived. But here it's mentioned explicitly, وَأَنَّ عَلَيْهِ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُخْرَى. That He has mandated on Himself the second rising. The resurrection, Allah has made it mandated on Himself. We have to understand what that means. A lot of people say they believe in God. But just because you believe in God doesn't necessarily mean you believe in the afterlife, right? Because these are supposed to be two separate parts of belief. One belief in the unseen is God. The other belief in the unseen is the afterlife. The college students, high school students, listen to this carefully because this is important for you guys. You guys meet students that have philosophical kinds of questions for you. Like, I believe in God, but the afterlife thing is kind of a problem, etc. You need to understand the Qur'an's response to that. Okay? Allah Azza wa Jal created everything in just. One of the qualities of Allah is He's perfect in all of His attributes. And part of perfection is to be just, to be fair. That's part of His perfection. If you look at the world around you, is it fair? No. What is the number one argument of an atheist about why he doesn't believe in a God? Because he says God is unfair. Look at all the earthquakes. Look at all the oppression in the world. Look at all the disease in the world. Why is there malaria? Why is there cancer? Why is there diabetes? Why are people dying of different plagues? Why is there economic injustice, political injustice? Why is there murder? Why are all these things happening if there's a God? If God was there, He wouldn't have let any of this happen. You heard this kind of argument before? One way or another, that's the argument. And it's either about the entire world and all the things that are wrong in the world, or it's about the guy personally. Why did God do this to me? It's not fair. Why did He have to make me sick? Why did I have to lose my job? Why did my wife die? Why did my husband die? Etc., etc., etc. It's just blaming God for what you see as injustice in the world. And you know what? Sometimes it looks like it's injustice. It does. Somebody works their entire life, an honest employee works their entire life, and gets fired for the owner's nephew who's just got a connection, not even qualified for the job, and he gets the job. It's unfair. That's not justice. Somebody works 40 hours and gets paid $2. That's not justice. It's happening in the world, but it's not justice. So there is injustice in the world. It doesn't take a genius to see that. But if you believe in God, then you have to believe that God is just. Because if you believe in God and you believe He's unjust, injustice is a form of imperfection. That means you don't believe in a God at all. Belief in a flawed God is not belief at all. That's where the atheists' brakes are put on. What did Allah do in Qur'an? On the one hand, He's extremely merciful. On the other hand, He is Maliki Yawmiddin. The only thing that balances the equation of injustice for us is Judgment Day. There are good things that people did in this life. The Prophet ﷺ did more good than any other human being will ever do. But he's sleeping with rocks tied to his belly. That's not fair. His tooth is lost in battle, and he's bleeding almost to death. He's almost stoned to death in Taif. That's not fair. Fir'aun, one of the most evil characters mentioned in the Qur'an, even Shaitan would want his autograph. That guy lives in castles. That guy lives in luxury most of his life. There's one day of suffering for him, the day that he drowned. That's not fair. And if those two sides of the water smashed him, that's a quick death. How's that fair? With all the crimes, all the babies he killed? And think of it this way. I give this example when I try to explain Fatiha. 100 people are killed by one guy. 100 innocent people killed in a bombing. And he gets caught. What's the most you can do to him? What's the most you can do to the guy who shot innocent people in the movie theater in Colorado? What's the worst punishment we can come up with? Death. How many deaths are you going to give him? He took 20 lives, 30 lives, 40 lives. How many lives can you take from him? Just one. That's not fair. That's an imbalanced equation. And on top of that, he didn't just take those lives, he ruined other lives that are tied to those lives, right? He has to pay for that too. This world is not going to give any justice to those families. Even if he dies, what justice is this? That they didn't get paid back for what they lost. There's no recovery. There's no recovery. That's where Judgment Day comes. Allah mandated it on Himself. And it's not even appropriate for me to say about God, God must serve justice, because I don't get to say what God must do, so He can say that about Himself. So He said it, An Najm An Ukhra. He has mandated on Himself the next rise, because that's when justice will be served. That's when the balance is complete. That's when every good deed is compensated and every evil deed is compensated, without which belief in God becomes incomplete. You understand? If you don't have the akhirah, then your claim that you believe in a God is not a belief at all. Because those guys, those people that worshipped idols were also people that pushed orphans around and killed indiscriminately and cheated people in business. How are you believing in a God and not in justice? Because when you believe in a God that is himself just, that forces you to say, well then I'll be brought to justice too, for the better or for worse, so I better get my act together. That's when revelation comes in. Because the three things, one leads to the other, leads to the other. You know where these one to the other is mentioned in perfect sequence? Surah Al-Imran. Surah Al-Imran. إِنَّ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَاخْتِلَافِ اللَّيْلِ وَالنَّهَارِ لَآيَاتٍ لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. In the creation of the skies and the earth, the night and day, there are miracles for people who really think. They reach to the conclusion this was not created without a purpose. There is a God. What's the second conclusion? Subhanaka faqina adaba an-nar. How perfect you are, protect us from the punishment of the fire, because you are perfectly just, which means there will be compensation for what we've done, and what I really worry about is there's fire. What's next? I need to save myself. Inna sami'na munadiyan yunadi lil iman. We heard the call of a caller calling to iman. Now revelation came and gave me guidance. 1, 2, 3. Same thing in the Fatiha. First Allah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Then Judgment Day, Maliki Yawmiddin. Once you realize their judgment coming, you need guidance. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ اهْدِنَا الصِّرَاطَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. It's a sequence. There's a sequence of thought. So, وَأَنَّ عَلَيْهِ النَّشْأَةَ الْأُخْرَى وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ أَغْنَى وَأَقْنَى. And He's the one who makes rich, and He's the one who pleases. Also means He makes poor, bankrupts. أَقْنَى, أَفْقَرَ يعني. وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ رَبُّ الشِّعْرَى. And He in fact is the one, the master of الشِّعْرَى. الشِّعْرَى was a famous star that they worshipped. Or they thought this star never falls. This is the constant, so this must be the object of worship. كَوْكَبٌ مَعْرُوفٌ كَانُوا يَعْبُدُونَهُ. Some say it's Jupiter. So a famous star that they used to worship. وَأَنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ عَادًا الْأُولَى. And He's the one who destroyed the first Ad. There are two Ads. Phone call. وَأَنَّهُ أَهْلَكَ عَادًا الْأُولَى. He's the one who destroyed the first Ad. You know who the second Ad is? Thamud is the second Ad. When the Prophet Hud ﷺ survived the destruction that Allah brought upon Ad, he settled them. So He settled Thamud, and Thamud then rises, and they're actually from the descendants of Ad, the believers of Hud ﷺ eventually become the nation of Thamud, generations later. So then He mentions وَثَمُودَ فَمَا أَبْقَى. And He destroyed Thamud, and nobody was left behind. مَا أَبْقَى. Then He didn't keep anybody around. وَقَوْمَ نُوحٍ مِّن قَبْلُ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا هُمْ أَظْلَمَ وَأَطْغَى. And the nation of Nuh from way before both of these nations, they were the ones, in fact, they were even more wrongdoing. And they were even more rebellious. And we know that because they lived a lot longer too. وَالْمُؤْتَفِكَةَ أَهْوَى. And then there is the town that was turned over. Ahwa was even more deluded by desires. This is the nation of Lut. Lut alayhi salam. Mu'tafikat, from afika to turn away, mu'tafika to be turned completely over. The town that was turned completely over. فَغَشَّاهَا مَا غَشَّا. Then He covered it in whatever He covered it with. This is referring back to the stones that was already mentioned. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكَ تَتَمَارَى. Then what miracles and gifts and favors of your master are you going to be in doubt about? That you're going to argue about? That you're going to be uncertain about? هَذَا نَذِيرٌ مِّنَ النُّذُرِ الْأُولَى. This messenger is a warner, and he belongs to a group of the earliest messengers. He's from the same fraternity of those messengers. He's from within النُّذُرِ الْأُولَى. أَزِفَةِ الْآزِفَةِ. Then the thing that's supposed to come down, as if to come down and land. Dana. This is the meaning of that. So danatil qiyamah. The thing that's supposed to come down and land and arrive is going to arrive. Laysa laha min, and it's mentioned in the past tense as though it's a done deal. It's just a done deal. Laysa laha min dunillahi kashifa. Other than Allah, besides Allah, there's no one to alleviate you from the events that are coming. Afa min hadha al-hadithi ta'jabun. Is it from this speech that they hear? Are all of you in shock? Are you guys finding it strange? وَتَضْحَكُونَ وَلَا تَبْكُونَ. And you people laugh and you don't cry when you hear about Judgment Day coming. وَأَنْتُمْ سَامِدُونَ. And you are people immersed in entertainment and immersed in heedlessness. Lahuna ghafilun. Yeah, samidun yani lahun ghafilun. And engrossed in entertainment, engrossed in heedlessness. Fasjudu lillah. Then make sajda to Allah. Wa'budu. And enslave yourselves. In the beginning of the surah, the star falls. At the end of the surah, we fall. Let's make a sajda and I'll share a story with you, inshallah. I highly recommend that today you find a really good recitation, a rapid recitation, like a salat recitation of this surah. I keep telling you the real experience of Quran is when you understand it, when it's recited. This surah, its rhythm and its flow is hypnotic. It's very powerful. And when you combine it with the eloquence it has, inshallah, one day we'll study the balagha of this surah. It is incredible. And there's a story tied to it too. The Prophet ﷺ was told to take aim at Lat, Manat and Uzza in this surah. And then in the previous narrative, we also read that he's supposed to declare Allah's perfection when he stands. Hina taqum. The scene was that the Prophet gathered the Makkans and he recited this entire surah to them. And the moment he started, they were mesmerized and they were stunned listening. They couldn't move. So they're listening to the entire surah, beginning to end. And when Allah got to the ayah that we just read, fall into sajda and enslave yourselves, the entire Quraysh fell into sajda. Leaders and all, everybody fell into sajda. They couldn't even help themselves. You know, like Allah describes the magicians of Musa, ulqiya saharatu sajidin, they were thrown into sajda. They didn't make sajda, they were thrown in like they couldn't even help themselves. Like that, the entire crowd made sajda. And then a scandal started in Arabia. The leaders of Quraysh have become Muslim, they made sajda. This is the power of Quran for them. This is the power of Quran for the mushrikun who understood its original language. This is an effect it had. And they're falling into sajda. And they had to save face, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? So they started a rumor. And they said, no. When Muhammad first recited the Quran, and they don't say sallallahu alayhi wasallam, we do. When he first recited the Quran, and he got to Ara'aytumul Lata, Lata wal Uzza wal Manat al-Thalithat al-Ukhra, then he added, at that time when he recited the surah, he added a couple of ayat, he took them out later. He added, Tilka al-Gharaniqul Ula, those goddesses are very high, wa inna shafa'atahunna la turtaja, and that there's intercession, that they will make a case for us on Judgment Day is hoped for. And when we heard that, we figured the dispute between us and Muhammad is over. He's accepting Lat, Manat and Uzza as legitimate goddesses. And therefore, we made sajda to our goddesses. That's what they added into the Quran to be able to justify what they had done. They had to come up with a concoction, this whole story. The whole beginning of the surah, Allah Azza wa Jal keeps telling you, keep making stuff up. You keep piling up newer and newer things. And they refuse to listen. The Prophet is told in the previous surah, you just keep reminding them. And what will they do? They will take the Quran and they will even make accusations and insertions into the Quran itself. And yes, they had to say that, because if they didn't say that, they'd have to admit Quran overpowered us. The word of Allah overpowered us. And we fell into sajda. That's pretty humiliating. So they instead had to come up with a lie against the Prophet himself. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One of the very powerful incidents in the seerah of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, the entire crowd falling into sajda. So again, like I mentioned, in the beginning of the surah, the star fell, and at the end of the surah, even the mushrikun fell. Even they fell into sajda. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us appreciate the power and beauty of these remarkable surahs. Inshallah ta'ala, after a little break, we'll start and finish, hopefully, our study of Surah Al-Qamar. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن الحكيم ونفعني وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.